Welcome back, knife nerds and everyday carry people. It's the Big Canucker here, and we have got ourselves a little bit of a special knife happening here today. But before we get to that, I just want to quickly say, you guys, thanks so much for all your love and support and kindness. It has meant a lot to my family, and I have to say that it's just been absolutely fantastic to get that, to know that hey, we're not alone out there, and that there's still some stuff to do, but for now, it seems to be trending into a positive way. Thank you so much. My wife is out and about right now, and she's doing very well. And thank you. So let's get on to this crazy knife here. Now, this is something that I've always wanted for a long time. Since I started collecting Spydercos, I always wanted to put one of these in my collection. Some people think it's gorgeous. Some people think it's ugly as sin. I happen to think that it is. Yeah, it's designed for the hand, not the eye, that's for sure. And it is the Spyderco Dodo. Uh, and you'll see why as soon as we open up the blade. The Spyderco Dodo here, this one happens to be a Blade HQ exclusive in the M4 with the jade scales, or I guess natural G10. But you can see that it has got this crazy little hook beak to it. And this one is definitely designed for the eye, not the hand. And if your hands could see, it would say that this is gorgeous. That's how good the ergonomics on this. Now, this was designed by Eric Glesser, Sal's son, and this is the first knife that he designed, and it was started off in 2003, which is what, 20 years ago? Holy cow, 20 years ago. And it is still, I think, a much sought after, much wanted knife out there, especially some of the old iterations. But this one here is bananas good with the old M4. So let's go over some specs on this. The overall length is 6.12 inches, and you can see that it is for the size of blade, it is a large knife, but not overall. It is not a large knife overall. You can see how the PM2 kind of dwarfs it. And then we have something here that's even a little bit smaller. This happens to be a Delica Wardenclyffe. This happens to be a custom made that I actually did. I dyed the handles, but we'll go over that maybe one of these other days. This one happens to have a Sanmai blade on it that's sandwiched. But you can see that it is even smaller than the Delica in overall length, but the handles, you can see that the handle on the Dodo is quite a bit more substantial than the Delica. And that was something I think that in some of the interviews that I watched with Eric Glasser, one of the things he was talking about is he liked to have the small blade of, like, say, the Cricket, but he didn't like the fact that the handle wouldn't really kind of get into his hand to do some real heavy duty work with this. And you can. I mean, you could do some really great work with this. I mean, this is not a knife that's going to be kind of a stabbing knife. With this tip on it, it will puncture like a mofo, but it is not something that's going to be kind of real stabby. And it's going to be something, I think, that when you actually kind of take it out of your pocket and you have it and people look at it, I think they're going to be drawn to it because of the unusual shape. I think most people aren't going to be afraid of it, although if you're a knowledgeable knife guy, this is a knife that can do lots of damage with the sharpness, with the hook beak on it, and the fact that it's not coming out of your hands. All right, so the closed length on this one happens to be 4.07 inches. It is only tip up carry, but it is left and right handed. It is fully ambidextrous with this ball bearing lock on it. Now, the blade length here is 2.05 inches, so it is, just a smidge over 2 inches. So be proud of it, Dodo. It's not how big it is, it's what you do with it. Right there, Dodo? The edge length is 1.68 inches. It does have this kind of 70-30 choil on it that you can put your finger on it, so you do lose a little bit there. But I don't think that's going to make a huge difference. Natural G10, or some people call it a JD10. Either way, but when you see it, if you shine some light behind it, you can see that it allows you to have a look at the mechanisms. Here, let's get my flashlight out of my pocket. And then you can see here. You can see the mechanism here, which I think is pretty neat. So one of the things you notice here with the light on it, there is no stainless steel liner in there. This is where the only part of the steel is. It is for the ball bearing locking mechanism, and you can see right there, that's where your spring and your piston's going to be. And then when you look over here, you can see the fact that your blade is kind of a U shape where your bearing will kind of pop into there. But all right, so it is very kind of, it's kind of flicky. I don't have it kind of drop shutty yet. This one here was actually new in box. It was quite tight in the pivot. The centering on it was really, really nice. I do need to kind of, I think, maybe do just a little bit of work to smooth it out, because it can get, these things get really drop shutty and they swing shut. This one happens to be pretty tight. You can see it's got this big steel backspacer there. That just really adds to the strength of this overall lock. All right, so CPM M4 steel in this particular iteration. It is a big, tall, deep, hollow grind on this, which adds to the cutting abilities. Now, this here, I'm not sure if you can see, but the last time I showed this knife, I just ticked it on my finger and I drew blood because this is so sharp. It is a little bit of a chisel grind on it. I don't think this will be too hard to sharpen, but if I'm doing a lot of work with this, I have some Spyderco files that I can sharpen this up real quick. But for the most part, I think with the M4, a lot of times you just got to really kind of strop your chisel edge, and it'll stay sharp quite a bit. Now the weight on it is really quite light. It's 2.08 ounces, so it is extremely light. When I put this in my pocket, I definitely don't feel that it's there. And the ergonomics on it, when it's actually in there, this tail doesn't bother me. It sticks out just a smidge there. And I wish it happened to have a lanyard, but it doesn't. It does have this kind of standoff here at the back, and you can see that there is lots of room for a leather lanyard to go in there. So I will be putting a lanyard on this pretty quickly to satisfy my lanyard needs. Now, it's not all kind of roses on here. Sometimes this ball bearing lock here it's definitely not a crazy fidgety knife until perhaps this ball bearing lightens up a little bit, because it does have lots of kind of draw to it. Now, I made the mistake of when I actually lubed this up, I got a little bit of lube on this ball bearing, and it was really quite slick on the fingers. And I can feel, because my lube that I lube this up with has got some PTFE in it, which is kind of some fine Teflon particles, and I can feel it on my fingertips when I kind of press it in there. So it is a little bit hard to grab in there, and then when you do kind of close it, there's no problems with opening it, but this is a little bit difficult. You have to kind of get your fingers in there. If you've got some kind of delicate fingers, definitely not going to be something that's going to be joyous for you, that's for sure. But it does close, and you kind of sometimes got to rest this back against your hand a little bit, just to kind of get it close. And I wish it was a little there. It will flick out, spider flick out there for sure. Just a matter of time before it will Spidey drop. I'll get that taken care of. But I really, really like this Dodo. I think this is maybe, depending upon what your life is like, this could be an excellent, great EDC for you. If you don't need a really long blade, if your job is opening lots of packages and stuff like that, I think that this is the perfect EDC knife for you, because it is. I'm not gonna say it's a glorified box opener, but it's a damn good box opener. It allows you to do some other things too, though. It is going to be a little bit hard to sharpen with, say, the serrations in it, but not only if you had like a straight blade on it too as well, because it does come in both ways, is that little bit of a reverse S-curve is not the easiest to sharpen, especially if you've got a stone, because your stone is not going to rest on there perfectly. So if you try to kind of pull your thing back on there, you're not going to get a very flat, against your stone. So if you have one of these knives, you're better off getting yourself maybe like a crock stick or a Spyderco sharp maker with those triangular stones. That's the way that you're going to sharpen this, and you're going to sharpen it with just with an S-curve. The only place you can really kind of get flat on the stone is probably that tip on it, just to keep it nice and sharp. But for the most part, you're going to have to use some Spyderco stones to sharpen it, and you sharpen it just like this. And then turned over, and then like this, and like this, and like this. And I think that's the way you can sharpen it, with some Spyderco triangles or some crock sticks, stuff like that. But other than that, I think it's an absolute joy to carry. It's light. Fits in your pocket quite nicely. It allows you to get really kind of bear down on that with this real kind of this thumb notch onto it. This 70-30 front trail. You've got all sorts of control on this. It's not going to come out of your hand because it does lock into your hand. I mean, Eric, I think when he was probably looking at designing this, he was looking at kind of really ergonomics. I think he took that to heart because I think Spyderco, when they first kind of started out, they were really famous for designing for the hand out, not the eye. And I think this is the ultimate culmination in that. With its ergonomics, large handled, small blade, functional, not necessarily EDC, but more of a niche blade. So that's where I would say this is kind of more of a niche blade for, say, Spyderco collectors because the unusual and the fact that they've made so many of them. I think if a guy's a box opener or package opener quite a bit, even a carpet guy, that's what's going to do for you. But for overall, just general EDC, if I had to be trapped on a desert island with this one, I don't think this one would be the one for me to be trapped on a desert island with. But still love this, and I'm going to keep this in my collection long term because, I just kind of wish they would every time they bring these out, they're just sold like no problem. But I kind of wish that they would bring them out as more of a kind of a catalog item. I'm sure a lot of people, it might not be the number one seller for the company, but I think it would be all right, especially with the M4 steel on it and this natural G10. All right, so thanks so much for stopping by. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, as well as add a comment. I appreciate it so much. Not only does it help keep me sane by reading that stuff, it also helps the old algorithm. And we got to hit ourselves to 2,000 subscribers because when we do, we're going to be giving away a Canadian Knife Company sleeper here. We still got that happening. I'm so glad that I get to come back here and kick some ass and give away this sleeper because it's a great little knife. 2,000 subscribers. All right. Please stay safe. Keep your stick on the ice. The shiny side up. This is the Big Canucker saying adios.